Okay, for this video we're going to continue learning about Linux and the command line. So we're going to talk about file and folder manipulations. So remember, folder is just another word for a directory, and a directory is a folder. Okay, so I'll open my command line and I'm on my local machine here. I haven't logged into the CS server. Okay, so when I open a terminal, my command prompt tells me that I am at my home directory. If I use the command print working directory, that tells me what directory my terminal is active in. Okay, /home/Luke. So everything we do on this terminal reflects a location in the file system. So if we look at a file browser, every operating system has some sort of file browser. On Mac OS it's Finder, on Windows it's File Explorer. Okay, on Linux this one's called Nautilus. Alright, so if we look here, if I go to the root directory, it is a directory, this slash here. Okay, that is where the operating system is installed. Okay, so on Windows, if you've installed Windows on your C drive, the slash in Linux is similar to the C drive. Okay, so there's all of these operating system folders. One of these folders is home. Okay, when I open that up, any users that I have installed on the system go here by default. You know, this is all configurable. On the CS server, the home directories are in different places. Alright, but you see we have slash, which is a directory, it's the root directory. Then we're in a directory called home, which we're in right here, and then there's a directory called Luke. So everything in this terminal corresponds to something in this graphical representation. So basically, when I double click on the mouse, if I'm back in my home directory, when I double click on the mouse on one of these items in the terminal, it's like saying CD Luke. Hang on. Now I'm in home, /home, just like over here, /home. So my terminal is now print working directory. It's in the same directory as this file explorer. Okay, so if I double click on this Luke folder, I navigate inside of that folder and then list out the items. So in the terminal I can do the same thing, navigate to Luke and then ls to list out all the items. So CD and ls combined is like double clicking something. BB is my Bitbucket folder, so I can go CD BB ls. So those two commands together are similar to double clicking a folder in the file browser. Okay, if I type ls-al, you see we have the A shows hidden files and folders. Every directory has a link to a dot, which represents that folder. Okay, so if I change directories to dot slash, or dot, I'm changing directories to this directory, so nothing changes. I can change to dot slash. That means in this directory, go to this directory, go to this directory. So nothing changes. Okay. The dot means go up to the parent level. CD ... So notice we were in home and then slash the Bitbucket directory. Now I'm in home because I changed directories to go up one level. Okay, so this is a relative location. Relative to where my terminal was in BB, I want to change directories one level up. Okay, so I'm in BB, and if I want to go one level up, there I am. Okay, so as we go through these commands, we're going to be talking about file and directory manipulations, like moving things around, copying things, removing, creating. These are the basics of the file system. We're going to use these constantly. Alright, so we've already talked about it a little bit, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth. Okay, so as I introduce some of these commands, I want you to know that you can do almost every command has an option --help. Oops. So let's try the move command, --help. The cd command does not have one. Alright, so move command lets you move a file, and this gives you extra information on how to use the move command, mv. Alright, so usage, move is the command, and then these are options. So remember, options are just arguments to the command. Alright, so if I have a command move and I add a space, whatever I write after the space is considered an argument. And an argument is just extra information you're providing to the command. Okay? And then if I add another space, then I can add a second argument. Argument 2. Okay? So all of the arguments are defined by these spaces from the command line. So whatever my command is, some command, space, arg1, arg2. And commands can have lots of different arguments. There's no limit. On some commands, there's no limit to how many arguments you can provide. Alright? So most commands, not all, have an option, which is just an argument. So we try move, and I want to know how this command works. I provide the argument. That happens to be an option because it starts with a hyphen or 2 hyphens. And this gives me information about how to use this command. Okay, so this is a pretty succinct list of all the different options. Right, so we want to move, we have options, and then you have a source file and a destination file. Okay, so you want to move a file from one location to a new location. Alright, so let's try this out. Let's change directories to desktop. Okay, so over here we're on desktop. Now let's first create a file. So we know there's lots of ways to create a file. We can do it with nano. Okay, so I've got some text. Control O saves. Control X will exit nano, and we see file.txt is over here, and it showed up in here. And if we type ls, it showed up in all of these places. Okay, so all of these locations point to the exact same file on the disk. Alright, so I can look and see what's inside with the cat command. Hi there. Or I can open up the file. Hi there. Alright, so I want to move this file. I decide I didn't name this file well. Okay, so I want to use the move command. So the move command, you type that, the first argument you provide. Optionally, you can provide any of the options that you see in the help menu. Okay, any of these options, but most of the time you don't need any. And so I'm going to move this file. So file.txt is my source, and I'm going to move it to a new destination. I want to move it to the same directory, but I just want to rename it. So I'll call this hello.txt. Okay, so really this move command is moving the file, except it's moving the file to the same directory, and I'm just changing the name. So you can use the move command to just rename files if you want. Alright, and that's how you rename files from the command line, is with move. There we go, hello.txt, hello.txt. Okay, and we say ls hello.txt. Alright, so the -- help is an important option. Most commands have it, not all of them do. Alright, now if you want more information on how to use a particular command, there's a command called man, which stands for manual, and the manual on a particular command, so manual on the move command. Now this gives us a lot more information. Okay, and we can scroll through and look at all the different options. Alright, so these hyphen options, anything that starts with a hyphen in a command is usually a command line option. It's an argument you provide to the command that makes the command do something special. It's an argument that the command recognizes. So if I pass in a source path, there can be any number of those source paths. The move command doesn't necessarily understand it knows that I've written a path, but it doesn't recognize that exact path because it doesn't know my username is Luke. So I could say something like move/home/Luke/hello.txt, desktop hello.txt. Alright, this is an absolute path, starting with slash, then the home directory, then Luke, then my desktop, and this hello file is right here. Okay, this is just an argument. It's not a command line option. This is random data that has been supplied by the user. It can be anything. The move command isn't aware of this specific data. Whereas command line options, it recognizes those immediately, and it does something different. It executes the program in a different way based on those options. Okay, so I can use this absolute path, and it's an absolute path because it starts from the beginning of the file system. And I can move that to /home/Luke/desktop/ foo.txt. So now this changed. Okay, so when you don't know how to use a command as we go through, remember the option move --help is one way, and then there's another option that is the manual command, man, and it shows you the manual on a particular command. Alright, and you can scroll up and down with your arrow keys, and to exit out of the man page, press Q to quit. Alright, so we've got the help documentation and the man command covered. So now let's talk about ls-al. So we remember every single directory has these two entries when you first create it. So let's do that right away. Let's create a directory. Make directory, and we're going to call it CS because this is computer science. Alright, so I'm going to make a directory. Sure enough, we see it has appeared over here. We have the CS directory. Now let me change directories into the CS directory. If I type ls, I get no output. Okay, that's because I'm not showing any of the hidden files or folders. Every folder has these two items by default, but they start with a period. So items that start with a period are considered hidden, so you have to use ls-a to show all. Okay, so these are the two entries that were not shown. So I have an empty directory, but it still has these two items in it. I just created a brand new directory, and it still has a reference to .. which is this directory's parent, and it has a reference to .. which is this directory itself. Alright, so cd .. Now we're back in the desktop. ls. There's our foo.txt. Alright, so now I can move a file from the relative directory. I'm in my desktop, so I can just type the file foo.txt because there's one of those in my current working directory. Right? I couldn't do this if my command line working directory was somewhere else. I can only do this because foo.txt exists in my current working directory. So this is called a relative path. It's relative to where your terminal is. Alright, so I want to move this file to my CS folder, and I might want to rename it. I could rename it here to something else. Okay, if I don't want to rename it, I can just say this is the directory that I want to put it in. Alright, so I'll move foo.txt to the CS directory. Okay, so there it is. Now let's move it back. Move cs/foo.txt back into this current directory, the dot. So that's the desktop because that's where I'm currently at. .foo.txt. Okay, or I could just leave that off and just reference dot as this current directory. And sure enough, foo comes back. So that's why you need these references here. The dot, move it to this directory. Okay, rather than me having to type out the whole thing again. So that's why these little shortcuts exist. Alright, so you have to be careful with the move command. If I want to move it into a directory called CS, but let's say the CS directory does not exist. Okay, so you can remove a directory or delete it with rmdir, remove dir. This only works on empty directories. Okay, so CS is empty, we move the file out of it, so now it goes away. Now if I do the exact same command I did before, move foo.txt to the CS directory, since CS directory doesn't exist, it thinks that I'm going to want to rename this file to be named CS with no extension. So move foo.txt to CS. Uh-oh. So now I have a file named CS instead of a folder. And it's the same file that foo was. Right? We open it up and it says hi there. This is the same file we've been moving around. So you have to be careful with this move command and the copy commands. If you are intending to move a file into a folder, but that folder doesn't exist, it will rename the file to be your folder name. Right? And that's not what you want. So let's change that back. We need to move the file CS, move it back to foo.txt. There it is. Hi there. Okay, so we make our directory again, computer science. Now I want to move my file foo.txt into the CS directory, and let's change the name of it to hi.txt. Okay. So let's look in CS, and there it is, hi.txt, and that's our file. Okay, now let me try to remove the CS directory. Remove dir CS. Now remember, I said this remove dir can only be used on an empty directory. See, I get an error message. This is standard error. It's printing to the terminal though. Remove dir failed. CS, the directory is not empty. Alright, so if you want to remove a directory that has items in it, you have to use the normal remove command. That's rm removes files. But if you want it to remove a directory, you have to do a -r to recursively remove everything inside of the directory. So I can have any number of things in this CS folder. Okay, and I want to remove CS. Alright. Let's make the dir again. Make dir CS, and then cd into CS. ls, nothing in here. ls-a. We see our two automatically generated links to this directory, which is a single dot, and then the parent directory, which is 2 dots. Alright, so let's make a few files. Touch a.txt, touch b.txt. Touch just creates a file, and it's an empty file. C dot. I type ls, we've got 3 items in here. Now I can make another directory. Okay, so let's open up CS here, and we have a.txt, b, and c, and we have another directory. Alright, so let's change directories into other, and we will create a file a different way. Instead of using touch, we'll echo the letter D. If I type echo D, it prints out the letter D to the terminal. But if I use the redirect character, I'm redirecting it to a file. Okay, so I can redirect this to d.txt. Now if I type ls, there's my file. ls-a to show all of them. I have my dot, my 2 dots, which is for the parent, and then my file. Over here, so we have this directory structure here. So let's go back to our desktop. So that's at home slash desktop. Or I could do cd dot dot slash dot dot, and that would take me to desktop. So if I go dot dot, that's going to remove me from the other directory and put me back in my CS directory. And if I say dot dot again, it's going to remove me from the CS directory and take me up to the parent, which is desktop. So I'm in desktop. So you can see that because we have junk dev and CS. So now let's try to remove this directory. It has stuff in it, so we have to use the normal remove command and -R to recursively remove everything inside. Alright, so we remove CS, and there it goes. Alright. On some systems, it will ask you for every single item that if you want to remove that item. Okay, so when we log into the CS server, if I type rm space -R and there's a directory and there's lots of items in it, it will ask me for every single one of those items, which isn't a big deal unless there's like 100 items. Okay, so you want to get used to doing remove dash remove recursive and force. So -RF stands for remove everything. The R is recursively, so get everything inside of the folder, and the F stands for force, which means don't ask me about every single thing. Alright, and so this command together, remove space -RF, is commonly called rimref. Alright, so rimref, because that's how you would pronounce RM-RF. Alright, so remove, recursively, and force. That's how you remove a directory. If I want to just remove a file, let's create a file with touch, a.txt. I have a file, remove a.txt. Touch b.txt. Now I can remove this file using an absolute path, /home/luke/b.txt. Oh, desktop. / Okay. So I'm still removing this file. I'm just telling the computer how to get to this file using the root of the file system as my starting point. So /, then go to home, then go to Luke, desktop, and then there's the file. So most commands that take a file name, they actually can take a path to a file if you would prefer. And as a shortcut for /home/Luke, that's my home directory, so I can just use the tilde character. So I want to create a file in my home directory /desktop, and then call this c.txt. So I have created another file here. Alright, so remove c.txt. So let's make something a little bit more interesting, even if it's only slightly. Let's make a grocery list again. We will have apples, so here's my grocery list. Okay, so echo apples printed apples to the terminal, but then I redirected that output and moved it to a file. So now this file was created and it has apples in it. Now if I want to add more items, I use the double greater than sign. Okay, so that's the double redirect operator. So I want to say echo bananas. Alright, so if we ls in this directory, oops, So if you get stuck, like I just did there, I accidentally added a slash, just hit Control C and it breaks you out of whatever you were doing on the command line and brings you back to the command prompt. Okay? So if you ever get stuck anywhere, just hit Control C and it'll bring you back to a different command prompt. That X means the last command failed, which is fine. So if I type ls, there's our grok, and I can look and see what's inside of it with the cat command. There we go. So there's our list. That's looking good. Now let's say I want to copy this list. So instead of using the move command, which is mv, we want to use the copy command. The copy command, instead of just moving the file, it creates an additional copy. Right? We've all copied things from the graphical user interface. Right? I can usually just drag it and hit Control, and you see a little plus sign, and I've made a copy. Right? That's normally how you do it from the file browser. So from the command line, you just type copy as the command, and what do you want to copy? The source file is grok.txt, and I want to call this list.txt. Alright. Now I want to make a directory called lists. See, we created a directory, mkdir, and I want to move all these items in there. So I can move them one at a time, grok.txt, and I want to move it into the lists directory. So it goes away, and then I want to move list.txt into lists. Alright, now I can copy a directory. I want to copy this directory, lists, to lists 2. So the copy command had an error, and it says -r not specified. So with directories, lots of times you're going to add the -r because it stands for recursively. I don't just want to copy the directory, I want to copy everything inside of it. Okay, so I want to copy -r, recursively copy this entire directory to a new directory named list2. Okay, so now I have list1 and list2. If I want to rename a directory, let's rename lists to list1. So lists, I'm going to rename to just list1. So now I have list1 and list2. Right here. List1 has 2 different files in it, and list2 has 2 different files. These files are separate, they're distinct. I can delete one and go back into list1, and it's still in that directory because they're 2 distinct files. Alright. So how do I remove directories? rm-rf, rimref, and then the directory name. rimref, list1. Okay. And let's see what's inside of ls list2. Alright. So let's change the name of the directory. List2, we're going to change the name to test. Okay. Now with the move command, you don't need the -r. Right? So we've got our list, we've got this test directory. And let's change directories and go inside of test. So now we're inside of here. So this is where we are. If I type ls, we see it matches. And I can create some files. Touch a.txt, b.txt, and c.txt. Now let's change back to our desktop, and I'll make another folder. TXT files. Okay, So let's say I want to make a copy of all of the text files in test. I can move all of those files, or I can copy them using what's called a glob pattern. Okay. Instead of moving them all individually, I can copy one file at a time. I could do copy a, let's see, it'd be copy test / a.txt, and then I would copy that to txt files. And sure enough, if I look inside of here, we have successfully copied A. But if I don't want to copy them all, or all individually, I want to copy them all at once, I can use what's called a glob pattern. And the simplest form is just to use a star. And star means any number of characters, and then the file ends in a txt. So this is going to grab everything from the test directory / and then anything in there that is named any number of characters and then has a dot and a txt. So this is going to copy all of those items, and I want to copy all of those to text files. So if I open up text files now, it grabbed all of them. Okay, so this is called a glob pattern. There are lots of different glob patterns. There's going to be a link on more information on glob patterns. It's not absolutely necessary for this course, but if you're working in computer science, you're going to need to know about this. So if this is your major, you're definitely going to want to look into that a little bit more. All right. So one last thing we need to know about: we're moving files around. We've moved, copied, we've created directories, we've removed directories, removed files. I can make multiple directories. Normally with makedir, I can only create one directory at a time. So if I wanted to create the directory A / and then a directory inside of there called B, I can't do that because A doesn't exist yet. I don't have a directory up here called A. Alright, so I would normally have to do makedir A, there's A, and then makedir A / B. And sure enough, in A we have a directory called B. So there's a way with the makedir command to do that all at once. So I can make the directories, let's say fruits / tropical / bananas. So it made all of the directories at once. Okay, so that's makedir.p. And remember, if you forget what a command does, -- help tells you some information. P is the command option. So go ahead and make the parent directories as needed. So it makes all of the directories in the chain. Alright, so I could say makedir -p A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. And so now I have A, B, C, D, E. Okay? Alright, so to remove the directory, rimref, I want to remove A, rimref, fruits, and then rimref test, and then rimref txt files. Alright, so we've cleaned everything up. So it's really important you know how to remove files and move things around, because otherwise your directories can get cluttered. And you can accidentally, sometimes people move a file where a directory should go. So a lot of times you'll turn in a lab and say it's lab 2. You might accidentally name a file lab 2 instead of the folder. So you have to know how to get rid of it so you can make the folder. Right? It won't allow you to have a folder and a file named the same thing. Okay? So the last thing you need to know with respect to file and folder manipulations is how to put spaces into a file path. Okay, so from the command line, when we have a command, if you have a space, that means the next item is an argument. Okay, this argument happens to be the command options. Then we have another space, and so this is the next argument. They're two separate arguments. What if I want one argument that has a space in it? Okay, we have to use, there's a couple different ways of doing it. So let's create a file, and I can say my space file.txt. So this isn't going to work. It's going to create two files. It's going to create a file called my, because that's the first argument, and it's going to create a file called file.txt. We have two files. That's not what we wanted. I wanted one file. So remove my and remove file.txt. So what I want to do instead is I can use quotation marks. So I want to create my space file.txt. And there, it gives me my file, and my file has a space in it there. So I can remove it. Now the other way to do it is like this. Instead of using quotation marks, I have to tell the terminal, hey, the space I'm about to provide here is actually part of the next argument. So to do that, I add a backslash. Okay, touch, I can say my, and I'm going to add a space, so I have to escape that with a backslash. The backslash is an escape character, and that's common in most programming languages in computer science. Backslash, in a lot of different areas of computer science, that is an escape sequence, and this means don't treat space like you normally would. This is an exception to the rule. We're going to have a space, and this is part of the first argument. Okay, and then I could do it again. I could say my file, and we're not done with the file name. I'm going to add another space, so I have to add a backslash. Is backslash space great.txt. And now I have a file name that has spaces in it. Okay. So you can do that with quotes. Remove my file is great.txt, or you can do it by escaping the spaces. Alright? So that's basic navigation. You're going to use these commands all the time. And there's one more thing. This will allow you to move files from your computer to the CS server. Okay, there's a command called scopy. Alright? Scopy stands for secure copy, and you can copy files from one computer to another. And we're going to copy files from my computer here, my local machine, to the CS server. So you can do this from, if you're working on a laptop, you can copy the files that are actually on your laptop. You can copy them to the CS server using this command. scopy -- help. Okay, there is no help option for scopy, so we'll use man. Okay, scopy, name, secure copy, remote file copy program. Alright, so these are all the different options. A lot of times these commands can be a little bit overwhelming with their options. Okay, so I'm going to show you basically how you're going to need to use it almost 99% of the time. Alright, first let's create a file that I want to move. So touch or echo hello, and here I'm going to do an escape sequence \n. That stands for a new line character instead of a backslash and an n. So again, we're using the escape sequence. Hello, and then how are you? And then a backslash n again. So I'm escaping this string of characters, and I'm saying I don't actually want an n character here. I want \n, which is a special character. It's a new line character. So these two characters combined are one special character. All right. So I'll put this to hi.txt. Hello. Oh, my shell didn't like that. We'll just say hello, how are you? and leave it at that. There we go. There's our file. And we want to move this to the CS server. Okay, so let's see what's inside of hi.txt. Hello, how are you? That's good. I'm going to open up a new tab here, a new terminal screen, and on this terminal screen I'm going to log into the CS server. So SSH LMA1 at cs.indstate.edu. Type in your password. Okay, I'm in my home directory. This terminal screen is now logged into the CS server. Everything on here is on the CS server. If I type ls, that command is actually running on the CS server, and then it's sending me back the output to display in my terminal screen. Alright, so I don't have any files in here. These are all directories. So I'm going to try to move this file hi.txt over here. Okay, so from my local machine, I'm going to copy the file. What file do I want to copy? The file in this directory, hi.txt. And where do I want to copy it? I want to copy it to lma1 at cs.indstate.edu. Okay, so this is your username on the CS server, then you use the @ symbol, and then the host name of the remote computer. So the host name of the CS server is cs.indstate.edu. Then you add a colon, and then it's the path to where you want this file to go. So I want it to go into that user's home directory. And we can call it something else if we wanted to. We could call it /hello.txt or not. We could just move it directly into the home directory. So let's try it like this first. It's going to ask you for a password. It's your password to the CS server. And you see it transferred it 100%. When you have a lot of files, you can see it go through and transfer. We go back over here, ls. Now we have hi.txt over here. So this is kind of like FileZilla, where you can transfer files back and forth. All right, but it's the terminal version of that. So under the covers or under the hood or whatever, when you use an FTP program, it's running commands like this in the background. All of the computer, anything graphical you use, almost all of it always runs text-based commands behind the scenes without telling you. Because most users prefer to use the mouse and click rather than type out a bunch of commands. Okay, so we say cat, up here on the CS server, cat hi.txt. Hello, are you? Doesn't make any sense. So we'll change that. Nano, hi. We'll change that to hello, how are you? That makes more sense. Alright, now we see cat hi.txt. Alright, so now I'm going to use the scopy command again, and I can use it from the CS server this time, or the other way, whichever. Generally speaking, you're going to want to use it from your laptop computer, because you don't have a host name and everything like that on your laptop. So you'll want to use it from the terminal scopy command from your computer, and you'll say scopy, I want to copy the file at lma1 at cs.indstate.edu. Okay, and then colon, and then the file name. So the file name is the file path that's in the home directory of that user, hi.txt. Okay, so this whole thing is the source. So we have the source file we want, and where do I want to move it? I want to move it to this directory, which is the desktop, and I want to call it hi2.txt. Type in my password, and here it is. Okay, so this one is correct. Hello, how are you? That makes more sense than the one we had before. Alright, so that's another way of transferring files. So that should get us for this video.